Captain Lee Jun stood on the metal deck of his big warship called Soul Pride and looked out at the dark space around Earth. The ship was huge, with thick walls and powerful weapons that could destroy enemy ships from far away. He had been a soldier for 20 years and had seen many battles, but today felt different. Today felt like the day everything would change forever. The Galaxy Council had sent their final message 3 days ago, and Lee Jun still felt angry when he thought about it. The alien leaders had told Earth that humans must give up all their space colonies and become slaves, or they would destroy every human in the galaxy. The message came from creatures that looked like giant bugs and lizards and things that humans had never seen before. They spoke in cold voices that showed no feeling at all. For 50 long years, humans had tried to be friends with these aliens. They had followed every stupid rule the Council made, even when the rules made no sense. They had paid huge amounts of money and taxes that made their colonies poor. They had watched while alien species stole human inventions and claimed they had made them first. They had smiled and been polite while aliens treated them like dirt. Lee Jun remembered when he was a young man and first heard about the Galaxy Council. His teachers had told him it was wonderful that humans could join such an important group. They said it would bring peace and knowledge and good things for everyone, but the reality was very different. The aliens looked down on humans and called them dumb animals. They said human art was ugly and human music was noise. They treated human colonies like garbage dumps where they could throw their waste. The worst part was how the aliens made fun of human children. When human kids tried to go to alien schools, they were bullied and beaten. The alien students would laugh and say humans were too stupid to learn anything important. Human parents had to watch their children come home crying every day, but they could not complain because the Council said aliens were more important than humans. Ambassador Park Hannah had spent 30 years trying to make peace with the Council. She was a smart woman who could speak 12 different alien languages. She had attended thousands of meetings where alien representatives would insult humans, and she had to sit there and smile. She had listened to them call her people primitive mammals and backwards creatures who should be grateful to serve their betters. Park Hannah had written report after report explaining how humans could help the galaxy. She had shown them human inventions that could make life better for everyone. She had tried to prove that humans were not the stupid animals the aliens thought they were, but nothing worked. The aliens just took what they wanted and gave nothing back. The final insult came when the Council demanded that Earth send all children between the ages of 10 and 16 to special alien schools. The Council said this was for education to help human children become better citizens, but human spies had discovered the truth. These were not schools at all. They were work camps where human children would be forced to dig in dangerous mines and work in poisonous factories until they died. When President Kim Dae heard about this plan, he called an emergency meeting of all human leaders. They met in a secret room deep under the ground in Seoul where alien spies could not hear them. The president was an old man who had fought in Earth wars when he was young. He had hoped that joining the Galaxy Council would mean his grandchildren would never have to fight again. The human leaders talked for hours about what to do. Some wanted to try negotiating one more time. Others said they should just give the aliens what they wanted to avoid a war. But when they heard the details about what would happen to human children, everyone became very angry. The vote was easy. Every single leader said the same thing. No more talking, no more giving in. If the aliens wanted a war, they would get one. Lee Jun got the message from Earth Command while he was checking his ship weapons. Admiral Choi Min-ho voice came through the radio speakers. All ships, this is Command Headquarters. The Council has made their choice. They think we are weak because we tried to be peaceful. Today we show them what happens when humans stop being nice. The captain felt something change inside him. He had been a soldier for a long time, but he had never fought in a war like this. Before, he had fought other humans who wanted the same things he did. They all wanted to protect their families and their homes, but the aliens were different. They saw humans as nothing more than animals to be used and thrown away. His crew of 200 men and women had been waiting for this day for years. They were tired of being pushed around by creatures who thought they owned the entire galaxy. They were angry about the insults and the unfair treatment and the way aliens looked at them like they were dirt. They wanted to show these aliens that humans were not as weak as they seemed. The alien fleet was enormous, over 3,000 ships from dozens of different alien species. floated in space near Earth. Each ship was filled with alien soldiers who had conquered many worlds before. They had weapons that could turn planets into dust and shields that could stop almost any attack. They had come to make an example of Earth, to show other species what happened when someone said no to the council. The alien commanders were confident they would win easily. They had studied human military forces and decided humans were no threat. Human ships were smaller and seemed less advanced. Human soldiers had no experience fighting real wars against superior enemies. The aliens expected to destroy all human resistance in a few hours and then take whatever they wanted from Earth. What the aliens did not know was that humans had been preparing for this day ever since they first joined the council. While pretending to be weak and peaceful, human engineers had been working in secret to build better weapons. While smiling at alien diplomats, human spies had been stealing council technology and making it even better. While acting like they were happy to serve the council, human leaders had been planning for war. June looked at his crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. His grandfather had told him stories about the old wars on Earth when ordinary people had to fight against impossible odds to protect their freedom. Those people had won because they refused to give up no matter how hard things got. Today, humanity would prove that lesson again, but this time on a scale that covered the whole galaxy. The council had made a terrible mistake. They had pushed humans too far. They had threatened the one thing that humans would never give up: their children. Now they would learn what happened when you cornered a species that refused to die quietly. The galaxy was about to discover that humans were much more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. Admiral Choi Minho stood in the deep underground war room beneath the city of Seoul, surrounded by glowing screens that showed the position of every human ship in the solar system. The room was filled with the best military minds that humanity had ever produced, and they were all working together to plan something that had never been done before: a war against the entire galaxy. The council fleet hanging in space near Earth looked impressive, with over 3,000 ships from dozens of different alien worlds. But the aliens had made one very big mistake. They thought they understood humans, and they thought they knew how humans would fight. They were wrong about both things, and that mistake would cost them everything. Colonel Park Soo looked up from his computer screen and gave his report to the Admiral. Sir, all human colonies across the galaxy have received Protocol 7 message. Our hidden fleets are moving to their battle positions. The Council thinks we only have 500 ships, but our secret shipyards have been working day and night for 10 years. We actually have over 1,500 vessels ready to fight. The aliens had always looked down on human industry, while other species in the galaxy spent decades building one perfect warship. Humans had built 50 good ones. When aliens focused on making their weapons look beautiful, humans focused on making lots of weapons that worked well. The council spies had found the obvious military bases that humans wanted them to find, but they had missed the real preparations hidden in empty space between planets. Human engineers had built massive shipyards that could not be seen from far away. They had hollowed out asteroids and turned them into weapon factories. They had built secret bases inside ice moons and on the dark sides of planets where alien scouts never looked. For 20 years, humans had been preparing for this war while pretending to be weak and peaceful. Dr. Song Min walked into the war room carrying a datapad that contained information about the most secret human weapons. She had spent her whole career developing tools of war that the Council had never seen before. Admiral, our new plasma cannons are ready for battle. They are based on alien technology that we borrowed from the Council, but we made them 3 times more powerful than the original versions. The doctor continued her report with a smile on her face. Also, our new shield systems can absorb energy from alien weapons and shoot it back at enemy ships. The Council has been using the same weapon designs for hundreds of years because they thought they were perfect. But we found ways to make them better and ways to defend against them. The Council had another problem that they did not understand. They had never fought against humans before, so they did not know how humans acted when they were in danger. Other species in the galaxy would surrender when they faced overwhelming odds, or they would try to negotiate for better terms, but humans were different. When humans were cornered, they became more dangerous, not less dangerous. The alien generals had studied every war the Council had ever fought. They knew exactly how each species would react When threatened, they had battle plans that had worked against hundreds of different enemies. But all of their experience meant nothing because humans did not fight like anyone else. The Council War games never included scenarios where the enemy refused to quit no matter how bad things got. Captain Young Hoon contacted the command center from his battle position near the planet. Mars Admiral, the Council fleet is sending surrender demands in 43 different languages. They are offering to let Earth survive if we give them everything else, our colonies, our technology, our independence. Should I send them an answer, Admiral? Choi smiled with cold anger in his eyes. Tell them that humans do not negotiate with bullies anymore. If they want our colonies, they can try to take them, but they will find that humans are much harder to kill than they think. Tell them that they pushed too far, and now they will learn what happens when you threaten human children. The message went out across all human communication networks from Earth to the farthest human colony in space. For the first time in 50 years, humanity spoke with one voice. Every human man, woman, and child heard the same words: no more begging, no more compromise, no more pretending to be weak. The Council had made their choice, and now humans would show them the consequences. On the mining colony of Titan 7, Administrator Lee Hanna received the message and immediately called all colonists to the central meeting hall. People, this is the day we have been preparing for. The Council wants us to surrender our freedom and our children. I say, we give them a fight they will never forget. Within hours, every human settlement in the galaxy had transformed from peaceful communities into military bases. Farmers picked up weapons they had hidden in their barns. Teachers began organizing defensive positions. Students who had been learning math and science started learning how to maintain weapons and repair battle equipment. The Council had expected to find helpless civilians who would beg for mercy. Instead, they found that every human colony had become a fortress defended by people who would rather die than surrender. The aliens had thought that threatening human children would make humans weak with fear, but instead it made them stronger than they had ever been. Dr. Han Nara worked in the communication center on Luna Base monitoring alien broadcasts from across the galaxy. What she heard amazed her. Admiral, we are picking up secret messages from dozens of worlds. Other species are watching what we are doing, and some of them are asking if we need help. The Council is not just fighting humans anymore. They are fighting the idea that someone can stand up to them and win. For 1,000 years, the Council had ruled the galaxy through fear. Every species obeyed because they thought the Council was too powerful to defeat. But now humans were proving that the Council could be beaten. Other oppressed species were starting to whisper about rebellion. They were asking themselves if they too could be free. The Vectan miners who had been enslaved for 50 years were secretly talking about taking control of their asteroid colonies. The Jorthi artists, whose music had been banned by the Council, were planning to broadcast their forbidden songs across the galaxy. The Threshold merchants who had been forced to pay unfair taxes were considering stopping their payments. Admiral Choi looked at the tactical displays showing human fleets moving into position around Earth and felt proud of what his species had accomplished. They had spent 50 years learning from their enemies, studying alien technology and preparing for this moment. Now they were ready to prove that humans deserved to be free. The Council fleet was still demanding surrender, but no human ship responded except to say that the talking was over. The aliens had pushed too far, and now they would face the consequences of their cruelty. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were much more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. The battle began when the sun rose over Earth Moon and the Council ships moved forward in perfect formation like they had done in hundreds of wars before. Their weapons were charging with deadly energy that could destroy entire cities, and their shields were strong enough to stop almost any attack. The alien commanders had studied every military strategy known in the galaxy, and they expected this fight to be over in less than an hour. Commander Nam Yuri led the first group of 30 human fighter ships toward the massive alien fleet. Her small ships looked like tiny insects compared to the enormous alien dreadnoughts that were 3 kilometers long and carried enough weapons to destroy a small planet. But Yuri had grown up hearing stories about how small fighters could defeat big enemies if they were smart enough and brave enough. All units remember what we learned in training, she said into her radio. These aliens think they know everything about fighting, but they have never fought humans before. They expect us to be scared and run away when we see their big ships. Show them what happens when you try to bully people who refuse to be bullied. The alien commander was a proud warrior from the Keth Empire who had conquered 12 different worlds for the Council. He looked at the approaching human ships and laughed at how small and weak they appeared. His flagship alone carried more firepower than all the human ships combined, and he was confident this would be an easy victory. The alien commander gave the order to fire, and massive energy beams shot out from the ships toward the human fighters. The beams were hot enough to melt steel and powerful enough to cut through the strongest armor, but something impossible happened when the alien weapons hit the human ships. The energy just bounced off their shields and shot back at the alien vessels. 3 Council ships exploded in bright flashes of light as their own weapons were turned against them. The alien commander stared in shock at his tactical display. Impossible, he growled into his communication system. Their shields are absorbing our energy and sending it back at us. How did they develop such technology? What the alien did not know was that humans had been studying Council weapons for 20 years, finding weaknesses that no one else had discovered. While aliens focused on making their weapons more powerful, humans focused on making alien weapons useless. Human scientists had learned that Council energy beams could be reflected back using special crystals that humans had found on their mining world's commander. Nam Yuri's voice came through the radio as her fighters tore through the alien formation like angry bees. Target their weapon systems first. Remember, we are not here to destroy all of them. We are here to send a message that humans will not be pushed around anymore. The human fighters moved in ways that confused the alien targeting computers. Instead of flying in straight lines like other species did, humans twisted and turned and changed direction without warning. Their small size made them almost impossible to hit, while their new weapons cut through Council shields like hot knives through butter. The alien fleet had brought their best pilots and their most advanced technology. They had weapons that could destroy planets and armor that could stop the strongest attacks, but they had never faced an enemy that fought like humans did. Other species followed predictable patterns and used standard tactics. Humans just made up new ways to fight as the battle went on. Captain O. Suna commanded a group of human destroyers that attacked the alien supply ships while the fighters kept the big warships busy. Her ships were fast and could disappear into space before the aliens could shoot back. We got their ammunition depot, she reported over the radio. Their big guns will run out of power soon. The battle that was supposed to last 1 hour stretched on for 6 hours. The alien fleet had more ships and bigger weapons, but humans had better tactics and stronger determination. Every time the aliens thought they had figured out how humans fought, the humans would try something completely different. Lieutenant Park Ji-ho was piloting a fighter when his ship was hit by alien weapons. His engines were damaged and his shields were failing, but he did not retreat. Instead, he flew his crippled ship directly at an alien cruiser and rammed it at full speed. Both ships exploded, but the alien crew of 300 was destroyed while only one human was lost. Stories like this happened all across the battlefield. Human pilots whose ships were damaged would use them as weapons against alien vessels. Human crews whose ships were about to be destroyed would overload their reactors and take alien ships with them. The aliens had never seen such determination, and it frightened them. The alien commander sent desperate messages to Council headquarters. We need reinforcements immediately. These humans fight like devils. They do not retreat when they are losing. They just fight harder. The human ships are smaller, but they have weapons we have never seen before and tactics we cannot predict. By the end of the battle, 50 Council ships had been destroyed or damaged so badly they could not fight anymore. The human fleet had lost only 12 ships, but each human ship had fought like it was worth 10 alien vessels. The alien fleet retreated to a safe distance while their commanders tried to figure out what had gone wrong. Admiral Choi Minho received the battle report from Commander Nam Yuri and smiled with satisfaction. The first battle was over and humanity had won. The aliens had learned that humans were not the weak creatures they thought they were, but this was just the beginning. The Council would send more ships and humans would be ready for them. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. For the first time in Council history, a member species had not only refused to surrender but had actually won a fight against Council forces. The impossible had happened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Council had pushed too far, and now they were learning what happened when you cornered a species that refused to die quietly. The humans had sent their message loud and clear. They would not be slaves, and they would not surrender their children. The war was just beginning, but humans had proven they could fight back and win. News of the human victory traveled across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Within days, every alien world knew that humans had defeated a Council fleet and sent them running back to their home planets for the first time in 1,000 years. A species had stood up to the Council and won. This news changed everything because it proved that the Council was not as powerful as everyone believed. Dr. Han Nara worked day and night in the communication center on Luna Base, listening to alien broadcasts from hundreds of different worlds. What she heard made her very excited. Admiral, we are picking up secret messages from dozens of species that have been oppressed by the Council for generations. The Vecton miners are asking each other if they should rebel. The Jorothy artists are planning to broadcast their forbidden music. The Threshold merchants are talking about stopping their tax payment. Species that had been crushed under Council rule for centuries were suddenly asking themselves if freedom was possible. The Council had always said that resistance was useless because they were too strong to defeat. But humans had proven that was a lie. The Council could be beaten if people were brave enough to fight back. The Council response was swift and brutal. They ordered their remaining fleets to attack human colonies throughout the galaxy, hoping to force Earth to surrender by killing innocent people. They bombed mining stations where families lived. They destroyed trade ships carrying food and medicine. They captured human diplomats and executed them in public. Their message was clear: submit to us or watch your people die. President Kim Dae received reports of these attacks while he was meeting with other world leaders in the secure bunker beneath Seoul. The aliens are targeting our civilians, he said with anger in his voice. They think they can break our will by murdering innocent people, but they do not understand humans. When we see our people being killed, we do not become weak, we become stronger. The human colonies scattered across the galaxy received the same message from Earth: do not surrender. Do not give up, fight back with everything you have. The Council wants to destroy us, but we will show them that humans cannot be broken by fear and violence. Colony Administrator Lee Hanna stood before the 3,000 people who lived on the mining world of Kepler 442b and delivered a speech that would be remembered forever. Attention all colonists. The Council wants us to surrender or be destroyed. I say we give them a third option. We make them regret ever threatening human children. The human settlements transformed overnight from peaceful farming and mining communities into military fortresses. Every man, woman, and teenager learned how to use weapons. Every building became a defensive position. Every piece of equipment was turned into a tool of war. The Council had expected to find helpless civilians, but instead they found warriors ready to fight to the death. Captain Osuna commanded the defense of the mining colony on Titan 7. When Council forces landed expecting an easy victory, the aliens thought they would just walk in and take control, but they found something very different. Instead of frightened civilians, they encountered carefully prepared traps and determined fighters who knew every tunnel and hiding place. The human colonists had spent months preparing for this attack. They had turned their mining equipment into weapons, their tunnels into defensive positions, and their entire settlement into a death trap for invaders. When the alien soldiers advanced, they walked into crossfire from hidden positions. They fell into pits filled with sharp metal. They triggered explosives that brought down tunnel roofs. The battle for Titan 7 lasted 3 days and nights. The Council forces had superior weapons and armor, but the humans had superior knowledge of the terrain and superior motivation. The aliens were fighting for conquest, but the humans were fighting for their families and their freedom. By the end of the battle, the Council had lost an entire battalion of their best soldiers. Trying to capture a single mining station, the few alien survivors retreated to their ships and reported back to their commanders that humans were impossible to defeat in ground combat. They fought like demons and never gave up even when facing certain death-similar battles were happening on human worlds throughout the galaxy. The Council had expected quick victories, but instead they found themselves trapped in long, bloody fights against people who would rather die than surrender. Human colonists used every advantage they could find, turning their knowledge of local conditions into weapons against the invaders. The Galaxy watched these battles with amazement. Species that had been conquered by the Council remembered their own failed rebellions and wondered how humans were succeeding where they had failed. The answer was simple: humans refused to accept defeat no matter how bad things got. Dr. Song Min worked in her laboratory on Earth developing new weapons and defensive systems based on captured alien technology. Every Council defeat gave humans access to more advanced equipment that they could study and improve. We have learned how to jam their communication systems, she reported to Admiral Choi. We can also override their navigation computers and send their ships to the wrong locations, but the most important change was not in technology, it was in the minds of people across the galaxy. Humans had stopped being afraid of the Council, and other species were beginning to feel the same way. The Council power had always been based on fear. Once people stopped being scared, the Council authority began to crumble. Captain Ru Minna led a human fleet in an attack on the Council supply depot at Rigel 4, where alien ships refueled and resupplied. Her ships moved with confidence and precision, striking exactly where the enemy was weakest. The Council defenders fought bravely, but they were demoralized by months of defeats against human forces. When the battle ended, humans had captured enough fuel and supplies to keep their war effort going. For years, they had also captured Council communication codes that would let them listen to enemy plans. The victory at Rigel 4 was not just a military success, it was a symbol that showed the Council was losing control of their empire. The Vecton miners on asteroid colony XJ7 heard about the human victory and decided to take action. They had been enslaved for 50 years, forced to work in dangerous conditions, while the Council took all the valuable minerals they found, but the human example gave them courage to rebel. When the Council guards tried to stop the uprising, they found that the Vecton workers had hidden weapons and planned their rebellion carefully. Within hours, the miners had taken control of their asteroid and declared independence. They sent a message to Earth thanking humans for showing them that freedom was possible. Dorothy artists on their homeworld began broadcasting their traditional music, which had been banned by the Council for being too emotional and disturbing. The Council had said that only approved art forms were allowed, but the Dorothy people no longer cared what the Council said. They wanted to express themselves freely like humans were doing. The Threshold merchant clans who controlled much of the galaxy trade stopped paying taxes to the Council. They had been forced to give half their profits to the alien government, but they decided to keep their money and use it to help the human war effort. The Council economy began to collapse as more species refused to pay tribute. What had started as a war between humans and the Council had become a galaxy-wide revolution for freedom. The Council faced rebellions on dozens of worlds as oppressed species followed the human example and fought for their independence. The empire that had ruled for 1,000 years was falling apart. The Council leaders met in emergency session trying to find a way to stop the spreading rebellion, but it was too late. The galaxy had seen that the Council could be defeated, and now everyone wanted to be free. The human victory had lit a fire that would burn across the stars until every species was free from tyranny. 6 months after the first battle, the war had spread to every corner of the galaxy. The Council had called up every ship and every soldier they could find, creating the largest military force in galactic history. Over 10,000 ships filled with millions of warriors from 100 different worlds, but they faced a problem that no one had expected. Humans were winning every battle. General Park Junzo stood in the command center of the massive Mogul fortress called Bizenhammer, watching displays that showed human fleets advancing on 3 different fronts. The Council strategy had failed completely. Instead of breaking human resistance, their attacks on civilian colonies had created an entire generation of humans who wanted nothing more than to completely destroy the Council. Sir, we are receiving surrender offers from the 4th Council Fleet this week, reported Communications Officer Kim Jina. They are offering to leave human space alone if we promise not to attack their home. World's General Park smiled grimly. Tell them that humans do not make deals with terrorists. If they want mercy, they can surrender completely and unconditionally. The Council's biggest mistake was thinking that humans would fight like other species. While aliens spent years making perfect weapons, humans changed their equipment after every single battle. Council plasma cannons were powerful but slow, so humans built rapid-fire versions. Council shields were strong but used too much energy, so Humans made efficient alternatives. Every alien advantage became a human improvement. Dr. Choi Swa led the human research team on Europa base, working around the clock to develop new technologies that would give humanity even more advantages we have. Broken their faster-than-light communication system, she reported during the weekly strategy meeting. Now we can listen to their secret messages and send false orders to their fleets. We can also jam their navigation systems so their ships get lost. In space, the most important change was not in technology, but in the way humans thought about themselves. For 50 years, they had lived under the shadow of alien superiority, always worried about making their galactic neighbors angry. Now they realized that the Council power came from fear, not from real strength. Once humans stopped being afraid, the Council authority crumbled like dust. Captain Ru Mina commanded the human fleet that attacked the Council main supply depot at Rigel 4. Her ships moved with precision and confidence, striking exactly where the enemy was weakest. The Council defenders had been demoralized by months of defeats, and many of them surrendered without fighting. When the battle ended, humans had captured enough supplies to fuel their war effort for years. They had also taken prisoner hundreds of alien soldiers who provided valuable information about Council plans and weaknesses. The victory at Rigel 4 showed that the Council was losing control of their empire, but the real victory was happening on worlds throughout the galaxy. Species that had been oppressed by the Council for centuries were rising up in rebellion. The Vecton miners had seized control of their asteroid colonies and declared independence. The Jorthi artists were broadcasting their forbidden music to every world in the galaxy. The Threshold merchants had formed their own trade alliance and refused to pay Council taxes. The Council faced a problem they had never encountered before. They were fighting not just humans, but the idea of freedom itself. Every species that joined the rebellion made the Council weaker. Every victory against Council forces inspired more people to fight for their independence. Admiral Choi Minho received a report that made him smile with satisfaction. Sir, the Council has lost control of over 30 star systems in the past month. Their empire is falling apart faster than they can send reinforcements. The rebellion is spreading to species we have never even heard of. The Council leaders were desperate. They had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years and could not understand how everything was falling apart so quickly. They sent their best diplomats to negotiate with human leaders, offering to give back some of the things they had taken, but humans were no longer interested in compromise. President Kim Dae met with the Council ambassadors in a secure location on neutral ground. The alien delegates looked nervous and defeated as they presented their offers. We are prepared to grant humans limited self-government, they said. We will also reduce your tax burden and allow your children to attend separate schools. Kim Dae listened to their proposal and then gave them an answer that shocked them. No, he said simply, we do not want limited self-government. We want complete independence. We do not want reduced taxes. We want no taxes at all. We do not want separate schools. We want the Council to leave us alone completely. The Council ambassadors could not believe what they were hearing. No species had ever demanded complete independence from the Council before. The idea was unthinkable, but President Kim continued speaking. Your empire is built on fear and oppression. Now that people are not afraid of you anymore, your power is gone. We will accept nothing less than total freedom for all species. The war continued to turn in humanity favor. Human fleets were advancing on multiple fronts, capturing Council worlds and liberating oppressed species. The Council military was demoralized, and many alien soldiers were deserting rather than fight against an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. Captain Lee Jun, now promoted to admiral, led a task force that captured the Council regional headquarters at Alpha Centauri. The massive space station had been the center of Council power in that sector of the galaxy, but it fell to human forces in less than 6 hours. The alien defenders surrendered when they realized they were completely outnumbered. The capture of Alpha Centauri was important not just as a military victory, but as a symbol of how completely the situation had changed. The Council had built that station to show their power and intimidate other species. Now it was in human hands and being used as a base to liberate more worlds. Dr. Song Min established research facilities on captured Council worlds where human scientists could study alien technology and develop even better weapons. The rapid advances during the war had shown what humans could accomplish when they worked together. Now that cooperation was being used to improve life for everyone, the galaxy watched in amazement as the Council Empire continued to collapse. Species that had been enemies for centuries were working together against their common oppressor. The Council had kept different species fighting each other so they would not unite against Council rule, but the human example had shown them that cooperation was stronger. Then Division Lieutenant Colonel Nam Yuri now commanded an entire wing of fighters that had never lost a battle against Council forces. Her pilots were veterans who had learned to fight in ways that no alien could predict. They moved like a single organism, destroying everything in their path. The Council tried one last desperate strategy. They gathered their remaining forces for a massive attack on Earth, hoping that if they could destroy the human homeworld, the rebellion would collapse, but they were too late. The rebellion had spread too far and involved too many species to be stopped by destroying one planet. Besides, Earth was no longer defenseless. The planet was surrounded by the most powerful military force in galactic history. Human fleets that had been scattered across the galaxy returned home to defend their birth world. They brought with them allies from dozens of species who had been liberated from Council rule. The final battle for Earth would determine the fate of the galaxy, but humans were no longer fighting alone. They had inspired a revolution that would change everything. The Council had pushed too far, and now they would face the consequences of their cruelty. The galaxy would never be the same. 2 years after the first battle, Ambassador Park Hannah stood in the ruins of the Council Grand Assembly building on their capital world of Zenther Prime. The massive structure had been abandoned when the Council government collapsed, unable to control their crumbling empire. The building that had once been the center of galactic power was now empty and silent, a monument to what happened when Lilies pushed too far. The war had ended not with a great final battle, but with a quiet surrender. Council fleets had simply stopped fighting as their member species declared independence one by one. The great galactic empire that had ruled for 1,000 years had dissolved in less than 24 months, destroyed by humans who refused to give up. President Kim Day arrived at the former Council capital, accompanied by representatives from dozens of species that had been liberated during the war. The Vectan miners had elected their own government and were now free to keep the profits from their mining operations. The Jorthi artists had established a cultural federation where they could create whatever art they wanted without fear of censorship. The Threshold merchants had formed a trade alliance based on fair dealing instead of exploitation. Many other species had also thrown off the chains of Council oppression and were now governing themselves for the first time in centuries. All of them owed their freedom to the example that humanity had set. Today marks the beginning of a new age, Kim announced to the crowd of representatives from across the galaxy. Not an age of human rule, but an age of cooperation between free peoples. We did not fight this war to conquer the galaxy. We fought it to prove that no one has the right to rule over others without their consent. Admiral Choi Min-ho had retired from active military service, but he attended the ceremony as a guest of honor. Reporters from hundreds of worlds interviewed him about the lessons of the war. The Council made a simple mistake, he explained. They thought that because we preferred peace we were weak. They forgot that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who does not want to fight but will do whatever it takes to protect their family. The new galactic constitution was written in simple language that every species could understand. No government could rule without the consent of the governed. No species could be forced to obey laws they did not help make. No one could be enslaved or oppressed because of their race or planet of origin. It was not a perfect document, but it was a beginning. The Constitution also established the Galactic Defense Force, a military organization made up of volunteers from all free species whose job was to protect liberty and prevent any new tyranny from arising. The Defense Force would be commanded by humans in recognition of their role in liberating the galaxy, but all species would have a voice in its operations. Dr. Song Min established the Galactic Technology Exchange, where all species could share scientific discoveries freely. The rapid advances in weapons technology during the war had shown what could be accomplished when people worked together, instead of against each other. Now that same cooperation would be used to improve life for everyone. The exchange would ensure that no species could use superior technology to dominate others. All new discoveries would be shared so that everyone could benefit from the progress of science the Council had kept. Different species at different technology levels to maintain their power, but the new galaxy would be based on equality and cooperation, Captain. Li Jun returned to Earth as a hero, but he was more interested in the future than the past the Council. Pushed too far, he told his crew during their final mission briefing. They thought they could break us by threatening everything we loved. Instead, they taught us that we are stronger than we ever imagined. Now we know that humans do not have to bow. To anyone, the galaxy was free, but freedom came with responsibility. The Council was gone, but there would always be people who wanted to rule others through fear and violence. The new galactic government would have to be constantly vigilant to prevent. New tyrants from arising many former Council worlds were struggling to govern themselves after centuries of oppression. They had forgotten how to make their own decisions and needed help learning to be free. Human advisors traveled to these worlds. Not to rule them, but to teach them how to build democratic governments that serve the people instead of exploiting them. The Vectan miners on asteroid colony XJ-7 had elected their first free government and were learning how to manage their own affairs without Council interference. They had invited human engineers to help them improve their mining operations and human teachers to help their children learn about freedom and democracy. The Jorothy artists were creating a renaissance of culture that was spreading across the galaxy. Their music and art, which had been banned by the Council, was now being broadcast to every world. Their message of hope and beauty was helping to heal the wounds left by centuries of oppression. The threshold. Merchants were establishing new trade routes based on mutual benefit instead of exploitation. They had learned from human economic principles that everyone could prosper when trade was fair and honest. Their merchant ships carried not just goods, but also the message that cooperation was more profitable than conquest. As the ceremony ended and the various species representatives returned to their homeworlds, one thing was clear: the galaxy had learned an important lesson about humanity. When pushed too far, humans would push back harder than anyone thought possible. The Council had discovered this truth too late, but their defeat had freed an entire galaxy from 1,000 years of tyranny. The new galactic government would not be perfect. There would be disagreements and conflicts and problems to solve, but these problems would be solved through negotiation and compromise, not through violence and oppression. The galaxy had learned that freedom was worth fighting for, and that cooperation was stronger than domination. Young people across the galaxy were growing up in a world where they could dream of any future they wanted. They were not limited by the species they were born into or the world they came from. They could become whatever they chose to be and go wherever they wanted to go. The human example had shown that ordinary people could do extraordinary things when they refused to accept injustice. The galaxy would never forget that lesson and would never again allow tyrants to rule through fear. The Council had pushed too far, and in doing so had destroyed themselves and freed everyone else. The stars shone brightly over the former Council capital as the representatives departed to build their new free worlds. The galaxy had a chance to start over and build something better than had ever existed before. It would not be easy, but it would be worth the effort. The age of tyranny was over, and the age of freedom had begun.